Our Locked On Falcons postcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, your team every day.
Welcome back, guys, to another Locked On Falcons postcast with myself, Aaron Freeman, the host of Locked On Falcons, joined as usual by my good buddy, Jarvis Davis, one of the co-hosts of ATL Day Ones, part of the Locked On Sports Atlanta podcast family. And guys, of course, the Falcons lose a close one. You know, they pretty much all these games come down to the final possession, and the defense did not come through for the Falcons in this one like they had in some earlier wins this season, with a sort of bizarre sequence where the Chargers fumble the ball on a third down, and then Taquan Graham scoops it up, runs it 20 yards, then he just decides to drop it, he's just like, this is a good spot.
I don't need this anymore. Like, what I need this ball for?
Just put that down. Chargers recover it. Then they get all the yards that they lost right back, and it sets up the game-winning 37-yard field goal from Cameron Dicker. And what's interesting about this game, Jarvis, talking about the Falcons defense, basically the Chargers had like 4 10-plus play scoring drives in this game, able to move the ball effectively, move the chains, and then they also had 4 3-and-outs in this game. So it's like you had the defense at times looking really good against a really good Chargers offense. I know they were dealing with some injuries or whatever, but Justin Herbert's still back there, so like they can cook. And then you had the really bad games where the Falcons are basically doing what they've been doing all year long, bend but don't break, and they're doing a lot of bending and ultimately break in the end. So start us off with your thoughts on the defense.
I mean, when you think about what this team has been able to do consistently, and that's rush the passer. Like that's the formula for getting off the field on third downs. We know they struggle in that department tremendously. They had 2 3-and-outs to start the game, and then I think the Chargers went on like a 6 third down conversion streak of converting on third down. So those are the type of things that you can't have as a defense. Like, you got to be somewhat consistent in an area, and when the area that you aren't consistent in is getting pressure on the quarterback, I don't think Justin Herbert even touched the ground until maybe 40-some seconds left in that first half. So when you have a quarterback that clean and that none bothered by your pass rush or the defensive lineman up front, there's no worries. And to be honest with you, after Taquan Graham fumbled that football, I was like, I knew that the Chargers were going to get this ball back, because the way Justin Herbert was, like he said, he was cooking. They let him cook, and he was just fine. It didn't matter who was catching the football. Justin Herbert was going to find the open man, and he continued to do that throughout this entire game.
Absolutely, yeah. It's tough because it was like, if this Falcons third down defense was, if they're not the worst in the league, they're like in the bottom 3 going into this game, and certainly this game didn't help. I figured Herbert would be able to move the chains multiple times in this game and keep these long 10-plus play drives that they were able to do. You hope that the red zone defense would step up a little bit more in some of those situations and force the Chargers to settle for field goals instead of getting touchdowns, but they couldn't pull it off. And we know that, again, we've seen this defense step up in the fourth quarter with Grady Jarrett getting a sack. They had an interception in the second half, so it did feel like, and again, they get the fumble, and you're feeling like, okay, this is, I don't know, luck or a miracle or whatever, that Austin Eckler just happens to kind of fumble it on a routine carry. But unfortunately, whatever success that they seem to have going, whatever luck they had going for them prior to this game did not translate today.
I mean, to be honest with you, though, what Rashawn Evans made, he forced that fumble. He knocked that ball out. And I think that's a guy that's been a pretty solid addition for the Falcons as he leads the team in tackles this year. But it just goes back to what your weakness is, and your weakness is not being able to get guys consistently. And I think that a lot of people, and I was partially guilty of this too, when I looked at the skill positions, right, or the guys that they didn't have. But looking at the offensive line and kind of going up and down that offensive line, those guys got some solid guys. You talking about guys like Zion Johnson, who had some battles with Grady Jarrett today, and he was able to win some. And I think because you didn't hear 97 name called that much, and I think Zion Johnson was one of those reasons. Also, Jamari Sawyer, he made Lorenzo Carter disappear, even though he doesn't need help with that from Sunday in and Sunday out. But Jamari Sawyer did an excellent job today as far as blocking, and I think that the Falcons defense line just got whooped, man. I think that's what you kind of do with it, along with having a quarterback that can just slang it, and that's a horrible combination. That's the recipe for beating a team like the Falcons. Even though they're resilient, even though they're always in games, even though they're going to fight to the end. But if you have a quarterback that can slang that tater, and you have an offensive line that can block, and they can protect, above average offensive line, that's a good recipe to take the Falcons out, just like what happened today.
Yeah. And I think when you look at the final score, you say, okay, they gave up 20 points to the Chargers. That feels like a winnable game for the Falcons. And so
Right.
it gives us a natural way to flip the conversation to the offensive side of the ball, where, it felt like the offense had an opportunity there with about 5 minutes to go in the game to go down the field, get points, whether it's a field goal, whether it's a touchdown. You feel like you need your offense to go out there and win the football game for you, rather than putting it back on the defense to have to get a stop and then, get the ball back to the offense. But they run the ball on first down. They get a first 2 yards to Tyler Algier. Then they had an opportunity for what could have been a touchdown,
Easy
where
to
Mariota overthrew Kyle Pitts. Maybe you can certainly say Pitts ran a little bit too shallow of a route, but regardless, that's 6 points off the board right there. And then Mario misses the third down throw. And the thing that stood out to me was pretty much when the Falcons threw the ball on like second and long, I think Mariota was like 0 for 6 today. And that miss to Pitts was the biggest of all of those misses. The Falcons running game was effective at times. I think probably one of the criticisms a lot of people will have coming out of this game, Jarvis, is that maybe they didn't run the ball enough. What are your thoughts on that?
To be honest with you, just kind of the whole Marcus Mariota thing to kind of start there. I think that's the thing that I've kind of got used to. I'm numb to Marcus Mariota missing Kyle Pitts or not knowing how to throw the football to Kyle Pitts, because when you think about it, he's always been like that. Like I remember last week, I was looking at the film, and you start to see as soon as the ball started to come Kyle Pitts' way, he starts to turn around and know that it's going to be behind him, right? And you kind of saw that today. And to be honest with you, like how you throw the football to a tight end. I know he's a unicorn, fast. He runs like a wide receiver, but when he's that open, put the ball on him. And even earlier in the game, the corner was sitting right on top of him. Why would you try to lead him when the corner is sitting on top of him? That's a recipe for an interception. If you throw it to him, he's open. He's open. He has a man's beat. He's right there. He got the inside of the cornerback. All you got to do is put it on him. He can catch the football. And I think that a lot of times Kyle Pitts doesn't know if he's going to do that or if he's going to try to lead him. So not that relationship right there has to get mended, because it's broken. Like you said, they had plenty of opportunities to make big plays today. Like you said, towards the end of the game, like you mentioned with Kyle Pitts, there was another opportunity they had with Kyle Pitts and early on in the game. So there's just a lot of things that's going on between those two that I think it's not right. It's just not right, and I think that something has to be done in order for it to be mended, so they can kind of have some type of chemistry going down the stretch towards the end of the season if they want to have a chance of winning this division. And also, when you talk about running the football, I mean that's a no-brainer, right? Because we came into this game knowing that the Chargers defense, they aren't good stopping against the run. They just aren't. And that continued to be the case throughout the entire game. There might be some lows where, hey, they came up and put a stiff at where they stop you for a +2 or +3. But if you stick with it, those guys they're gonna shine through. They're gonna shine through each and every time, and that's what they did. To the tune of almost I think they ended up with over 200 yards rushing in this game. So when you think about that, man, it's kind of hard to kind of swallow that pill, because like you were able to do what you came into this game doing. You were able to execute. It's just like but it just weren't able to execute enough when other opportunities presented themselves.
Yeah, you mentioned that connection to Pitts. There was about, I think, 4 deep balls to Kyle Pitts that did not connect in this game, and I think that last one was the one that you feel the most, because
Oh yeah.
that that would have put the I don't know if it would have put the game away. You never trust this defense, but
No,
like,
yeah. Well,
but
at least for the
like
moment, yes, it would have.
yeah, at that moment you would have felt very good about
Right.
your ability to put the game away had he hit that one. And all in all, like, not a bad performance for the Falcons. They just did not make enough of the plays that they needed to pull out the win. It did feel like for the first quarter they dominated the game, then the Chargers kind of took charge in the second quarter, and then kind of like it was kind of even in the third quarter. And you could argue the Falcons maybe got a little bit better getting that turnover and turning that into points. And then going into the fourth quarter, Chargers, Koo misses a field goal that would have pushed the Falcons lead to like 20-17 or 20-14. Then
That was
the Chargers,
weird. Cool
yeah,
missing field goals. Like, come on,
yeah,
man. It's weird.
yeah.
It's weird,
It was
man.
just the Falcons had some opportunities late in the game to kind of put this game away, or at least to put the pressure back on the Chargers, and they just didn't really take advantage of it. It just feels like they got I don't know, 70% of the way there and just couldn't finish today, which has not been an issue for this team throughout the season.
Right. Yeah, and that's why you see so many of the close games that they've been in, and like one or two plays can be the difference in them being 1-7 coming into this game, or 7-1. You never know. So those are some of the things that outside of that Cincinnati loss, that's what we're talking about, right? Like, they've been playing this game the entire season, and they've come used to it, and especially since the last week against Carolina. So, hey, this is one of those L's that you almost kind of, from a team standpoint, from an identity standpoint, you almost kind of have to accept, because this is just who you are. Like, you're not good enough to beat teams, soundly. So, hey, you're going to be in the game. All you're asking is to be within the possession in the fourth quarter, and try to figure out a way to get a win at the end.
Yeah, and they couldn't figure it out today. So Falcons 4-5 got a short week against this Carolina team that arguably outplayed them the previous Sunday, but didn't make the plays at the end of the game that would have won them the game. So we know that's going to be another sort of close, hard-fought team that's in Carolina. So that's going to be a challenge traveling on this short week. But we'll have you covered here, guys, all week long here on Locked On Falcons, as well as Locked On Sports Atlanta, where Jarvis and Tanicha will have you covered on ATL Day Ones. You got Mark coming at you first thing in the morning with A to Z, and John Chuckery on Hitting Hard as well. So make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Sports Atlanta, Locked On Falcons, so you have everything covered. We'll be, quick turnaround here for the Falcons, but Locked On Sports Atlanta's also got you covered for the Georgia Bulldogs, what's going on with the Hawks, how the Braves, it's early in the offseason for them, but how they get back into the mix next offseason. They got you covered for all of the local headlines as well as the national ones going on all across the country. And guys, that will do it for us here on this postcast. Really appreciate you tuning in. Unfortunately, the Falcons could not take care of business on Sunday, but we got another game in 4 days, and hopefully we'll see them take care of business